Hello everyone, welcome to IASBABA's 60 days rapid revision series for Prelims 2022. This is day 57 and we are taking up economics topics. So some of the topics in the current affairs we are discussing today. So before that we will take the guessworks as usual. So how is permaculture farming different from conventional chemical farming? So friends, regarding agriculture, so conceptual questions will come and they will be very easy if you try them. So just because you haven't tried, don't leave it. So permaculture means, so approximately we can make that permanent agriculture. So permanent means, so we are not allowing the land to fall for fallow. So that means we are replenishing the soil fertility again and again. So thereby the permanent agriculture comes into picture. So in that perspective we read the options. That is, permaculture farming discourages monoculture practices, but in conventional farming the monoculture practices are predominant. So yes friends, if we go for monoculture, so at one point of time the soil will reduce its fertility and we have to stop it and allow the land for fallow. But if we have multi-cropping or the multiculture rather than monoculture, then we can realize permanent agriculture. So this happens to be a correct statement. Then conventional chemical farming can cause increase in soil salinity, but the occurrence of such phenomenon is not observed in permaculture. So yes friends, if soil is saline, it is not suitable for agriculture. So in permaculture, soil can never become saline. So we should not allow soil to become saline. Before that, we will take some measures. Then, so again, the second statement also happens to be correct. Then the third statement is half given here. Actually, the statement goes like this. The permaculture is not possible in the arid and semi-arid areas, but conventional chemical farming is easily possible in such regions. Friends, this is a skewed statement. Like whenever we are going for conventional chemical farming, we are applying fertilizers and we have to irrigate too much. Else, due to the heat of fertilizers, the crops will burn out. So irrigation is maximum required in the conventional farming. But however in permaculture, so the irrigation is not so much required. So actually permaculture is more suitable in arid and semi-arid climate. So 3 we will cut off. And then practice of mulching is very important in permaculture. Yes, mulching means we are allowing the dead leaves to be decaying in the soil itself. So yes, mulching is one of the organic processes here. So if you consider the overall perspective, so 1, 2 and 4 will be the formidable option. Then come to next, with reference to palm oil, consider the following statements. So palm oil is a tree native to Southeast Asia. So here on Southeast Asia we have some doubt. We will consider it for further study. Then the palm oil is a raw material for some industries producing lipstick and perfumes. Friends, we cannot say something is not used for producing lipsticks and perfumes. So statement B happens to be correct. And then the palm oil can be used to produce biodiesel. Again, we cannot say something cannot be produced. So C will also be correct. So here friends, it is the smartness and the hard work will both fetch you success. So here I have brought the Hindu editorial. Actually, it is a book review. So in that book, that is The Oil Palm, A Global History. So here the Jonathan Robbins, he explains how palm oils are cultivated in Western Africa. So that means they are endemic to Western Africa, not in Southeast Asia. So now 2 and 3 only will be the correct answer. So again friends, make a habit of reading the newspapers and after that go for any revision materials. And that raw newspaper, that will fetch you more knowledge and your answer writing quality will also increase in mains. Then come to next, with reference to Indus River system, of the following 4 rivers, 3 of them pour into one, of which joins the Indus directly. And among the following, which of the river that joins the Indus directly? So here we can see that Chenab is joining directly. So the Chenab flows like this and Jhelum and Ravi they join. So Chenab will be the formidable option. So here you might have seen the map. You might not be able to remember at that point of time. So here although some amount of luck is present, but we will consider it as an easy question. So not so difficult a map work. Then, with reference to India, Didwana, Kuchaman and Sargol and Katu. So they are the names of which. So friends, unless you are from this area, so this question is considerably moderate to difficult. But however, if you have done the map work sincerely, these are the places very much near to the Sambar lake, that is the Shakambari Jheel. But anyway, even if you leave this question, there is no issues with that. And mind you, the shortest questions, they will be very much difficult to take the guessworks. The long questions, they will give anyone hint. But short ones, they won't give any hint for us. Then, consider the following rivers. Brahmani, Nagavali, Subarnareka and Vamshadhara. So, which of the following rise from the Eastern Ghats? So, friends, if you consider the India map like this, so here it is like, if something is rising from Eastern Ghats, so there should be a small river. So, if at all they are rising from the Western Ghats, so they will be the long rivers. So, here we have to search for the small rivers only. So, now crudely, if a river is given in the Atlas, so it will be a long river. So small rivers will not be identified by the Atlas also. So whichever is given in the atlas, we will try striking it down. So Brahmani, Baitarani, they are given. So we will strike this down and we are remained with the B and C. And friends, if you have analyzed the previous year questions, so Vamshadhara was asked in 2015. So likewise, and it is our duty to analyze the papers, and we know that Vamshadhara is a small river and it flows only up to this much. That means it takes birth in the Eastern Ghats. So 4 will be correct, but anyhow 4 is present in both of them. Luck didn't favor us. But there is one more river, Subarnareka. Subarnareka is also present in Atlas. So that means it is also a long river. So strike out 3. So 2 and 4. That is Nagavali and Vamshadhara. These are the 2 rivers. So these are some of the guessworks. Then coming to the topic, special credit linked capital subsidy scheme. So as the name suggests, it is like the capital subsidy scheme that is linked to the credit. So this includes a 25% capital subsidy for the purchase of plant and machinery as well as the service equipments. So whenever a small and medium sector enterprise, so whenever it is purchasing some capital machinery, so 25% of the investment will be given up. So that means the credit subsidy will be given. So if I take 1 lakh rupee loans, I need to pay back only 75 lakh and 25% will be subsidized. And it happens through institutional financing to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe MSMEs. So remember, it is only for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe MSMEs and only for MSMEs per se. So hence it comes under the Ministry of MSMEs and with no sector specific limits on technology upgradation. So there is no as such like only this sector will be getting subsidies and only this technology will be getting. And it will help MSMEs to upgrade their technology, then improve the quality of their services and increase production. So not so important a statement. Then the earlier version of this special credit linked capital subsidy scheme is in 2000 it started, and the scheme's goal was to offer 15% upfront capital subsidy. So earlier the subsidy was 15% or up to 1 crore, whichever is less. So either maximum 15% subsidy I get or I will get 1 crore rebate. So now it is increased to 25%. So this is a brief account. So remember the scheme and the aim of that scheme and also the ministry. Then the social commerce. So social commerce is similar to e-commerce, but in this buying and selling are done on social networking sites like Facebook, Instagram, etc. And in simple words, social commerce is the use of social network to do e-commerce transactions. And here some of the difference between the normal e-commerce and the social commerce. So here the trading scope. So here the global trading scope is present. So that means Amazon, Flipkart, in those websites, we can even purchase the imported goods as well. But here, the limited trading scope. So friends, here limited because the market is not so matured now. So if it matures, it will be as equal as the e-commerce. And then the communication. Here one-way communication and here two-way communication. So the buyer and seller, they can speak together. You can go for a bargain and then you can purchase. And then the time, it is more time consuming. So here it is like you will order, then write the address and then the parcel will be delivered. And here you will speak to him and the very next day, so he can come to the address where you speak and the time whenever you are free. Then the customer engagement. So less comprehensive customer engagement and more comprehensive. So here even the sellers will also get a chance to make sure that they market their products properly and they will entice the customers. Then the trust. So here it is most trustworthy, but social commerce is less trustworthy. So why less trustworthy, friends? Because whenever you are interacting with so many people, so there are equal chances of we getting duped as similar to the offline trade. And also whenever we listen to the others, the opinion may also be biased. Say for example, some 100 people, they give 5 stars to some restaurant, but whenever we purchase the food from that restaurant, it will not be of that good taste. So that means only those people who are the friends or shareholders of that hotel, they have given the 5 star for that. So likewise it goes. And the companies Amazon, Flipkart, they are e-commerce, and Facebook, Instagram, they are social commerce. Then the off-balance sheet borrowing. So the state's off-balance sheet borrowings at decadal high, and this will hurt new investments. Once CRISIL, so CRISIL, the rating agency, it has said that due to increasing off-balance sheet borrowings of the state, so that will hurt the new investment. So we know that whenever the state is borrowing, so only when it clears the earlier dues, so center will allow to borrow it further. And also whenever the state borrow more and more, their credibility decreases. And here, what are these off-balance sheet borrowing? These are the loans that are borrowed by public entities of the center and states. So again, the government borrowings, and these loans are not counted while calculating fiscal deficit. So as they are not mentioned in the balance sheet, so that is why they are called off-balance sheet. and this leads to hiding of actual fiscal deficit which masks the future capital expenditure. So it is like the actual fiscal deficit we are hiding, and once if that snowballs, so everything will be open for the world to look at. And for example, loans taken by Food Corporation of India are not included by the Government of India in the fiscal deficit, even though the funds are utilized for state programs. So such ones are called the off-balance sheet borrowing. So friends, here don't confuse the same with the off-balance sheet exposure. So off-balance sheet exposure is something related to banks. So say for example, off-balance sheet exposure means, so like apart from whatever the loans, the interests, so all those things which I get, I will be getting some additional income, and that is not written in the balance sheet. So that is the off-balance sheet exposure of the banks, and here it is off-balance sheet borrowing of the governments. Then come to next, the marginal cost of funds based lending rates. So MCLR. Why is it in news? Because SBI increased the MCLR rates for the first time in 3 years. And this MCLR is the minimum interest rate that a bank can lend at. So below that it can't, because if it lends below that, so the bank will incur some loss. And it is a tenor linked internal benchmark. So it is decided internally. So that too on the basis of the period stipulated for the repayment of a loan. So if you take a loan for 1 year, so the cost of funding will be different. And if you are repaying it at 1 month, the cost of funding will be different. So on the basis of the cost which the bank incurs while giving you the loans and taking it back, so on that basis, the MCLR is set up. And the MCLR is closely linked to the actual deposit rates and is calculated based on 4 components. That is the marginal cost of funds, that is the cost of giving loans and taking back the loans, and the negative carry on account of cash reserve ratio. Say friends, for example, if I am giving you loan, so some part I will have to keep as a reserve. So I will be incurring some losses if I keep some money as a debt amount in my reserves. So that cost is also counted. And then the operation costs, so that means the office work and others. And then the tenor premium. So tenor, so if you are taking 1 year, the interest bank gets thereof, or if you are taking it for 1 month, the interest they get thereof. So all these are calculated. Then the Reserve Bank of India introduced this MCLR methodology for fixing interest rate from 1st April 2016. So from that time MCLR is in vogue. Then the base effect. So India is registering high inflation due to base effect of the low prices in COVID affected years. So here the base effect is coming into picture again. So what is this? The base effect is the distortion in a monthly inflation figure that results from abnormally high or low levels of inflation in the year ago month. So that means the same month a year ago, what was the inflation? And on the basis of that, if the inflation decreases or increases, so we will call it as base effect. That is, if the rate of inflation was low in the previous year's corresponding month, then even a little increase in the price will result in a high rate of inflation in the current year. And similarly, if the price index increased in the previous year's similar period and showed strong inflation, but absolute increase in the price index in the current year is slow, so then the inflation rate is slow or the inflation rate is lower. So remember friends, base effect means not the previous month, but the corresponding month of the previous year. So that is more than sufficient for us. And then the Academic Bank of Credit Framework. So the government has brought the IITs, IIMs and the other institute of national importance under the Academic Bank of Credit Framework. So what is this? This framework allows the students to pursue up to 50% of courses from institutions other than the one with which they are enrolled. So if I am enrolled in one college and if I have some 10 credits, so 5 credits I can earn from other colleges. And the students can earn credits equivalent of marks with the bank acting as the digital storehouse of such academic points received from institutions under ABC framework. So if I am receiving the 5 credits from other colleges or other institutes, so they should also be under ABC framework. If I am taking the credits under some colleges which are not under ABC framework, no credits will be deposited into my account. And then the ABC shall deposit credits awarded by registered institutions into students' account. And the academic bank credits can only be shared from institutions, not directly from the student. So students can't transfer it, only the institutes can transfer. And only credits submitted by an authorized institution will be accepted for storage and validation by ABC. So a simple concept, not so difficult one. Then the internal capital adequacy assessment process. So here it is, internal capital adequacy. So RBI has stated that the upper and middle layer NBFCs will have to follow this ICAAP. So that means they have to have internal capital adequacy process. So assessing the internal capital adequacy should be taken up by these upper and medium NBFCs. So why it is? Because there is a regulatory concerns about the credit risk for the individual NBFCs. So friends, we cannot believe all NBFCs, that is the non-bank financial companies. So if you have an internal capital adequacy mechanism, so that will be safer. Then NBFCs will need to establish a board approved policy and framework for the ICAAP and assess their existing and future capital requirements based on the credit, then on the market, then operational and the residual risks. So on the basis of all these, they will have an adequacy assessment process, and the process of ICAAP is to inform the board of the ongoing assessment of the entity's risks and how management intends to mitigate those risks and how much current and future capital is necessary. So all these are simple ones. So that means internally I will be having a capital adequacy assessment process, and I will be showing to the board of governors that the NBFC is running safely and we have sufficient capital to repay our liabilities. Then coming to more facts, NBFCs will have to make a realistic internal assessment of risks, and the ICAAP policy and framework laid down by the NBFCs will be subject to regulatory oversight. And the key elements of ICAAP policies are the risk appetite statement, then risk profile analysis, then capital management, capital strategy and targets, then use test, then independent review. So friends, just glance over it. So in detail technical terms will not be asked by UPSC so much. So whenever UPSC asks a conceptual question, so that will be very much understandable to a generalist. Then the implementation of ICAAP requires strict changes in the internal governance structure and a good information base. So all these are required. So these are a brief description of the ICAAP. Then come to next, the NABFID, or the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development. So friends, NABFID has been set up as a development financial institution to support the development of long-term infrastructure financing in India. So mark this long-term as important, and also infrastructure financing. Then the Development Financial Institute has been set up to support the development of bonds, derivative markets necessary for the infrastructure financing. So friends, this Development Finance Institution is a kind of financing institute wherein the derivatives and bonds, they are being developed, and NABFID is one of the development financial institution. Then NABFID shall be regulated and supervised as an All India financial institution by the Reserve Bank under the RBI Act. So remember friends, just because derivatives are there, don't confuse that SEBI will regulate. It will be regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. Then the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Act, so that received the assent of President on March 2021, and it shall be the fifth All India financial institution after Exim Bank, then NABARD, then National Housing Bank and SIDBI. So friends, this is not the first one. This is the fifth All India financial institution. So in this, remember the long term, then infrastructure, then the derivatives, and the DFI, and the AIFI, then the RBI, and the fifth number. Then come to next, the market infrastructure institution. So stock exchanges, depositories, and clearing houses are all market infrastructure institutions, and they constitute a key part of nation's vital economic infrastructure. So friends, all these related to the share market, they are called the market infrastructure. So again, a collective word, not so difficult to remember. And these MIIs are systematically important in India for various purposes. And Bimal Jalan Committee has given so much importance to these MIIs. So remember friends, the Bimal Jalan Committee was set up to look after the share market and its efficiency. Then among the stock exchanges, the SEBI lists 7, including Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange, and then the Multi-Commodity Exchange of India, then the Metropolitan Stock Exchange of India. So there are 7 stock exchanges under SEBI, and remember these. And then there are 2 depositories. So friends, depositories means where the shares are being stored under safely kept. So here we have the Central Depository Services Limited and the National Securities Depository Limited. And the regulator SEBI also lists 7 clearing houses, including the Multi-Commodity Exchange Clearing Corporation. So just like the 7 stock exchanges, it also lists 7 clearing houses. And then clearing houses for their part will help validate and finalize securities trades and ensure both buyers and sellers honor their obligations. So friends, here remember the collective word market infrastructure, and also remember that SEBI lists 7 stock exchanges, and it also lists 7 clearing houses, and it also has 2 depositories, that is the CDSL and the NSDL. So that is more than sufficient. Then the National Building Code of India. So as the name suggests, it is a national instrument providing safe guidelines for regulating the building construction activities across the country. And then it serves as a model code for adoption by all agencies, be they public work departments and other governments for the construction and other works. Then the code mainly contains administrative regulations, then development control rules, then fire safety requirements, then stipulations regarding materials, that is the building materials control rules, and then the structural design, and then the construction norms. So various things are included, not so important a fact for prelims. And we compare that with the Bureau of Indian Standards. So friends, the BIS is the National Standards Body of India under the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Ministry of Consumer Affairs and Food and Public Distribution. And it is established by the Bureau of Indian Standards Act 2016, and the minister in charge of the ministry or department having administrative control of the BIS is the ex officio president of the BIS. So friends, take it as an assignment, this National Building Code, so that will belong to which department and which ministry. So find it out and remember. Then the special 301 report. So India among the most challenging economies, says the USTR. So USTR publishes this special 301 report. So the special 301 report identifies trading partners that do not adequately protect and enforce the intellectual property rights. So those who are not implementing the IPRs, so they are listed under this report, and the report is released by the United States Trade Representatives. So friends, it is not related to United Nations but only to USA. Then the trading partners that currently present the most significant concerns regarding the IPR rights are placed on the priority watch list or in the watch lists. So the countries who are troublemakers in this patenting regime, they are placed under these two lists. So mostly India will be in these lists. So we see whether it is there or not. So in its 2022 Special 301 report, USTR designated 7 countries in the priority watch list. These are Argentina, Chile, China, India, and Indonesia, Russia, and Venezuela. So India is in the priority watch list. So the report says India has remained inconsistent in its progress on the IP protection and enforcement. But however, the report praises that India's accession to the WIPO's Internet Treaties in 2018 and the NICE Agreement in 2019 were positive steps. Friends, what are these WIPO Internet Treaties and the NICE Agreement? That is the World Intellectual Property Organization's Performances and Phonograms Treaty and also the Copyrights Treaty. So friends, dance performances, then audio cassettes, then songs, so all these are included as patents under these performance, phonograms and copyrights treaties. So they are collectively called as the Internet Treaties and the NICE Agreements. So remember about the Special 301 report, who will come up with the report, India is in which list. Also India has acceded to these treaties. Then come to next, and then the Temporary Protection Directive. So friends, the European Commission decided to activate the Temporary Protection Directive to offer assistance to people fleeing Ukraine amid the Russian invasion. So we know that the immigration is going on in the Ukraine on the wake of Russia-Ukraine war. So to help those immigrants, European Commission has brought this, and the directive applies when there is a risk that the standard asylum system is struggling to cope with the demand stemming from the mass influx. So friends, asylum comes with some procedure, and whenever there is a huge demand, so these delayed procedures will not work. So that is why this Temporary Protection Directive will come into picture. So that means this TPD will overpower the asylum rules. Then it reduces disparities between the policies of European Union states on the reception and treatment of displaced persons in a situation of mass influx. So that means whenever there is a mass influx, the European nations should not discriminate between their citizens and the immigrants. And it promotes solidarity and burden sharing among European Union states with respect to receiving large number of potential refugees at one time. So this is a mutual sharing and caring. And the TPD foresees harmonized rights for beneficiaries of temporary protection, so which includes a residence permit for the duration of protection which can last for 1 to 3 years. So that means for 1 to 3 years, a residence protection will be there, and appropriate information on the temporary protection. So what kind of protection you will get? So that information will be given beforehand. And access to employment, and then access to accommodation or housing, and access to social welfare or means of subsistence, and access to medical treatment, then access to education for minors, and opportunities for families to reunite in certain circumstances, and guarantees for access to normal asylum procedure. So even after 1 to 3 years, if they could not go back to their own nation, so they can seek asylum in that particular nation in which they are residing. So this is all about the Temporary Protection Directive. The Permanent Normal Trade Relations. So the status of PNTR is a legal designation in the United States for free trade with a foreign nation, and it is the US version of most favored nation status. So friends, we know that the WTO will give for this most favored nation status, and this is the United States version of MFN. And in international trade, MFN status or treatment is awarded by one nation to another. We know that, and it means that receiving nation will be granted all the trade advantages such as low tariffs that any other nation also receives. So basically friends, most favored nation or might be the PNTR. So that comes with the low tariffs, low custom duties. So thus, a nation with the MFN status will not be discriminated against and will not be treated worse than any other nation with the MFN status. So all MFN status nations will be treated equally. And friends, then this MFN or the most favored nation status, it is a key principle of WTO, and it basically aims to give equal tariffs and impartial regulatory conduct. So remember MFN and the PNTR. Simple concepts again. Then de-dollarization. Friends, as the name suggests, it is like removing the use of dollar in the world economy. So that means we are substituting US dollars with any other hard currencies. Say for example, we are using other hard currencies for trading oil, and we are minimizing the buying of US dollars for the forex reserves. So instead of US dollars, we purchase others, that is other hard currencies like Japanese yen, sterling pounds and others. Then bilateral trade agreements. So here also dollar is minimized and dollar denominated assets. So we are minimizing the dollar denominated assets. Then since the establishment of Bretton Woods system, the US dollar is used as the medium of international trade, and in recent years, several countries are transitioning to trade in national currencies. And de-dollarization is driven by the desire to insulate the central banks of the countries from geopolitical risks. So friends, throughout the world, if you are using only one currency, so there might trigger the 2008 crisis, that is the Lehman Brothers crash. So Lehman Brothers happened in US, but that triggered a financial crisis for the whole world. So to stop that, de-dollarization is being taken up. Then the tax inspectors without borders. So this TIWBs is a joint initiative of OECD and UNDP, and that is designed to support developing countries to build the tax audit capacity. So remember the two bodies which are coming up with this, and the aim is to teach the developing countries how to audit the taxes properly. And the TIWB facilitates well-targeted specialized tax audit assistance in developing countries around the world. And under the TIWB, the tax audit experts work alongside local officials for developing country tax administrations. So they work with the local officials, so that means it is a coordinative approach. Then the host administrations of developing countries are the lead partners in the TIWB program, clearly specifying their needs and scope of work. So that means they are not dominating, they just work as a team with the developing countries. And then a dedicated central unit, that is the TIWB Secretariat, jointly managed by OECD and UNDP, operates as a clearinghouse to match the demand for auditing assistance with appropriate expertise. So this secretariat will act as an administrative office. So remember the aim, and the founders of Tax Inspectors Without Borders. So this is all about today. Then coming to the last part. So friends, there are news that the COVID-19 fourth wave is coming and many cases have been appearing. So make sure that you take care of your health. The exam is fast approaching. So hardly there are some 20 days for the prelims. So if your health is gone, so in the last moment, so your confidence will be lost. So make sure that you take the necessary precautions and give the exam with the fullest zeal, enthusiasm and confidence. So all the very best from my side. Good luck friends.